Casual Magic has been brought to you by CoolStuffInc, where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL to get 5% off of your sale. And then also by Coalesce Apparel, where you can get really cool t-shirts and stuff, and use the code CASUALMAGIC to get 10% off your sale. And by Archidekt, a deck hosting website that doesn't really sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them. And now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivan Putt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Archidekt. They don't really have a code, they just like me, I like them, and it's a great deck hosting website. It's by Coalesce Apparel, who makes my brand new t-shirt and sticker, which is super, super cool, and by CoolStuffInc, who hosts my podcast every Tuesday. I love my sponsors love me, and it's a great sympathetic relationship. Also, recently I have become a brand ambassador for for Quiver, which is one of my favorite just deck hosting accessories ever. Like, I've been using them for years. I would happily celebrate them with or without any link up, but they've decided to ask me to be one of their ambassadors, and I'm super happy because I pitch them all the time. Everybody should have a Quiver, really. They're like the best kind of deck boxy thing. But today is a very special episode. I have my dear friend of Twitter, Mike Wildspeaker, who is really, really cool. I actually like a lot of the work he's done. He's a high school teacher up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he runs a magic club, which I've heard quite a bit about over the years. And the idea of making a club for kids in school to be able to sit and play magic or, nerd out and stuff, that's the sort of thing that I used to do when I was in high school, and I definitely know that my people, the nerd community, has always been lacking in finding a home somewhere, and having like sympathetic teachers who can sit there and be like, "We're having the D&D club," or "I'll sponsor your anime club," or the magic club, whatever it is. That is like one of the most important things that like a kid can have when they're that age, because it's the sort of thing that gives you a sense of belonging, a sense of community, especially when you're like one of those, like, let's just put it this way: Magic kids back in the days did not fit into the standard social hierarchy of high school, and so not having a place to go and express ourselves, be it in through cards or video games, or wearing gothy t-shirts or listening to Susie Sue or whatever, the people I'm talking about. So it's a joy to me to welcome Mike here, because like I think people like him are doing a great service to people like me. So hello, Mike. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Shivan. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. I hear about your club a lot. And you do a really good job of hyping it up, which is really important. But can you maybe lay it out for the listeners? Tell me a little bit about what's going on here.
Yeah, so it's a after-school club, and students can come on by and spend their time doing all the things we do. So we play Magic a bunch. That's the main thing that's played there, but certainly not the only thing. There's a lot of D&D players and multiple adventures going on with them, and we have a whole beautiful shelf of other board games that students can pull off and take a spin and make some
Oh, so
friends.
it's like it's like a big old gaming club entirely, right? Not just Magic. It's just like
Yeah,
nerd
that's right.
games. Man,
Yeah,
that
I would
sounds
say the
sweet.
slight majority are the kids there to play Magic. That's their main. That's all they want to do. And maybe 40% or so dabble in all that other stuff. Some are there for
That's
just
sweet.
D&D. They're doing their adventure. They come in, they hit that, and others just dabble in any of them, and they're just
That's
trying anything
awesome,
out.
man.
Yeah.
Where do you keep this stuff? Do you like put it in a closet or something and
Oh
lock it up in
yeah,
a teacher's lounge?
it's evolved over the years, and I've really have it in a form that makes me happy now. I teach science, so I
Mm.
have some of the biggest rooms in the high school because we store all this equipment and we have huge lab stations, and so it's also perfect for playing games. Then you could just stand at this vast tabletop and play whatever game you're trying to play. And I've taken a big chunk of the cabinets and taken the covers off so you can see 50 or so games, tabletop games that are stuffed in there. There's a nice row of D&D books and resources that are on there that you can just peruse and see all the offerings of that. You can check them out like a library book, so you can check out
Oh,
a
that's
player's
sweet.
handbook or Tasha's Cauldron of everything or whatever you want that we happen to have that you're interested in, and hold on to it for as long as you like. And
That's awesome.
yeah, I have this year I strung around the perimeter of maybe 75% of the room a clothesline kind of thing with clothespins on it, and I've ringed the room in playmats. And it's sort of a prize wall that kids can turn in good grades on and pick out a playmat to keep.
Oh, that's
And it's
fantastic.
I call it the game for grades prize wall.
Dude,
So
you know what, man? Whatever it takes. As
yeah,
as a parent of a small child in elementary school, I have definitely learned the value of trinkets. Like,
yeah,
whatever it takes to get them to read or do their homework is a good thing in far as I'm concerned. And man, yeah, I'm thinking back now 30 years or whatever to my high school days, and chemistry class or whatever would have been a perfect place to play games now that I think about it, because you got all
yeah,
those big lab tables that are just huge,
sure
and
do.
as long as you're not, like, messing with the sinks or whatever and, like, put the Bunsen burners away, then you can definitely make room for, like, big board games or for, like, playing Magic with multiplayers. When I was in high school, we spent our time playing Magic outside in the, like, hallways between classes or whatever, or, like,
Yeah,
or when we were playing in class, it would be in, like, the back of the band room on the ground or something like
sure,
that.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, wow, that's fantastic. And, what grades do you teach, or are you just well, it's high school, so I guess it's all kinds of science, huh?
Yeah, whatever. I teach usually biology classes most years, but I've taught uh, chemistry sometimes. I teach mostly juniors, teach some
Mm,
freshmen. I do a college level biology class.
cool. How many kids are into your club?
Oh, there's about maybe 30, 40 that'll show up.
Dang,
Um,
that's a
and
lot,
there's an
man.
extended periphery that come and go and dabble in other things. And, yeah, it ebbs and flows, but around that ballpark. And uh, yeah, it gets pretty lit and loud up in there. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, does your school support this?
I don't have any like official funding for things, so all of the stuff
Sure,
the kids get is through
like
donations, and
donations. Yeah.
people have been extremely generous with that. The Magic community has been absolutely wonderful, and people on Twitter have reached out all the time to just offer cool stuff to the club, and I have just immense gratitude for this community supporting all these students. And yeah, I just run it after school as a my own time kind of thing.
Yeah, man, dude, all the teachers I know spend so much time after school just having to grade or having to prep for the next class. So like donating your time to an after school club is a big endeavor. I mean, yeah, you can probably sit there and like grade homework while everybody's playing, but do you get to play or do
Sometimes it
you
comes to that,
just be
but
like the
usually not. Usually I'm up in
adult?
there
How often do y'all meet?
once a week.
Mm, that's that's better. Because if
Yeah.
it was like an everyday thing, then you'd get nothing done.
Oh yeah, that'd be overwhelming.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. So, like, how do kids find your club?
I
Like,
do. Yeah, I put up posters and flyers and things at the start of the year. It's really snowballed to become a perpetuating thing.
mm,
It started pretty low
kids
key.
bring their friends.
Yeah, yeah. And I put up the flyers and things, and students come around and just ask about it. And hey, how do I? I saw you play D&D here. I saw you play Magic the Gathering here. Da, da, da. And then I tell them, oh yeah, come on by. It's a free draft, and we got these prizes going on. And their minds are just blown. They're like,
Man, free draft in high
yeah. To me
school,
in high
free
school,
drafting.
I'd lose my
Oh my
mind hearing
god,
that.
that's nuts. I mean, mind you, when I was in high school, drafting didn't exist, but the idea is still very appealing to me. Like that seems really fun. Um, I'm not going to ask about like, mundane stuff like who gets to keep the cards because that's not important. But I'm
Well,
more
they keep
interested
everything.
in
I pass it right along to them.
yeah, good. Um I'm more interested in like I guess the particulars of what this is because one of the things about gaming that we know is that it's like it's a good tool for kids who are more introverted or maybe not socially adept to be able to find friends, to be able to find a community, to be able to learn how to become more communicative and like, socially conscious, socially aware. And like cuz like when you play a game, you have to talk to your the people you're playing with. You have to say, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hold priority. Hey, what are you doing?" Blah blah blah. And if it's a multiplayer game, or if it's a board game or something, there's even more like politicking and talking and communication.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's a great way to help kids kind of come out of their shells, which is one of the things that when I was a kid, D&D was such a huge like boon to me because I'm a loud, talkative storyteller type, and D&D is exactly the game for that. But
for sure.
so have you like what sort of benefits have you seen for these kids like as they come and go through your club? I'm sure you've seen a lot of growth because especially in high school, 13-year-olds starting, 18-year-olds leaving is a big gap, right?
Oh, tremendously. And just like you said, I mean, it's a place where kids can find their tribe, find their group, work on these social skills, and that's what I'm most interested in doing. Getting people to play Magic or D&D or any game isn't an end in and of itself. It could be anything, and it that was something I loved doing as a kid. It meant a lot to me. It was, in my formative years, something that I benefited from immensely, and so that's what came naturally to me. But the thing that I want to see is this create this connective outlet for kids
Mm,
to socialize, to have this unstructured, fun space, safe place where they can be themselves, have these nerdy interests of theirs
mm.
totally celebrated by a teacher, an adult, make the formative experience of getting
There
into
is
games positive.
mhm. There's nothing more important than a supportive adult. i'm I'm just going to be clear about that. Like having somebody who is older, who takes interest in your interests and says, "Hey, you're not like off kilter for wanting to do this thing," is so vital to growth. Right? Like it's just so important to helping kids feel more secure and more self-conscious. No, not self-conscious, but more like self-esteem and self like strengthened, right? Like I don't
Yeah,
know the word I'm reaching for, but like it gives them confidence, right? It gives them a sense of security, and that's rad. Like, uh, and I know one of the things that like you've mentioned before is how diverse your community is at your school. Can you talk to me about like what's your school like? Is it because I've like I'll be honest, I've been to Milwaukee a lot, and I've been to Wisconsin, and diversity is not the first thing that comes to mind when I was there.
yeah.
Like,
It my I teach in a Milwaukee public school, and
mm,
the student body there is very diverse, and in my school in particular, it's a wonderful cross section of the Milwaukee community. My school is majority black, and the rest of it divvied up between white kids, Latinos. There's a
mm,
huge Asian community of Hmong and Rohingya and Karen kids,
mm.
and so it's this awesome cross section of the community, and everybody comes there, gets along, and revels
Because
in the things that Game Club is all about.
yeah, I love that gaming has this ability to lower barriers and to lower to equalize a lot of the tables here. Like it doesn't matter who you are when you sit down with the dice in your hand, that's the same dice everybody else is picking up, right? Like the roll is not based on who you are, your financial background, or who your parents are, or when they came to this country. It's going to be whatever the dice is showing and whatever the storyteller wants you to do with it. And like I know when I was a kid, like when I was growing up in central Massachusetts, I was one of the 3 brown people in my, like and I was in a small little village basically deep in the heart of the thing, and in the '80s, we're not talking that this is like the United Nations over here. This is a place where it was so white that the white people were like separating it to like Irish and Italians and like, oh yeah, the Pilgrims were my ancestors, and like, God, man, you guys are like, you have gone that granular.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
just like the one token brown guy, but like having the escape of like D&D and later Magic gave me a sense of like not being lesser or different, right? Like, I mean, it was still different and stuff, but I could my warrior and your warrior are still the just fighters who are hitting things, and there's no difference between us when we're sitting and playing. And that definitely was like deeply formative for me personally. And so like it warms my heart to see, especially in like, I don't like to get political on this show too often, but Wisconsin is one of the worst political situations in the United States right now. And
Yeah, yeah, it's real back forthy,
it's
purple
a real
state, and
challenge, that
yeah,
state.
if you look at our two senators, it's like total opposite sides of the political spectrum, and
it is it
we're
is a trip, like, that state. So so it means a lot to me personally that you were able to give a safe space to kids from these like communities that wouldn't otherwise support these kind of hobbies. Like, my parents were definitely not a fan of me playing D&D, let me tell you.
oh no.
Um, how do kids run campaigns there? If you've got like 30 people in that room, man, that's got to be real loud to be playing.
Yeah, it can be. And the ones that tend to love it are the ones that get pretty loud themselves, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I
yeah,
mean,
it takes a strong-handed DM to keep them on track. Sometimes they'll just fall off the rails, and they'll be like, poison arrows flying out of the walls. Y'all got come on, bring it in, bring it in. They're like, oh, okay.
so we're obviously deep in the heart of a global pandemic, 2 years on now, and you're a teacher, which is one of the more uniquely screwed classes of people in this situation we've got. Because I'm sure you had to deal with this over like Zoom and trying to teach over your computer, which doing science lab over Zoom seems like its own kind of hell to me.
Oh, it was
Like
awful.
I don't you don't go send people Bunsen burners and propane at home. Like, how are you going to titrate things with their? All right, kids, go get your like detergent from underneath
Yeah.
this sink and let's pour it together and see what happens.
Oh,
Um,
teaching biology was I mean the last couple of years were the hardest of my whole teaching career, and
I
a
believe it.
lot of teachers feel that way. A lot of teachers have burned out, and the students were extremely burnt out. Everybody was really fried. And yeah, just teaching here from my basement, trying to teach science. My whole curricula was designed towards, you know, getting your hands dirty and doing stuff, and that's what I loved about science. And so all of that was jettisoned, and I had to reinvent the vast majority of my curricula. So it was like my first year teaching all over again, now with kids that are watching me, on a Chromebook or a phone, and I'm competing with sleeping in or video games, or and so just the attention span of kids I'm constantly fighting, and
Dude,
their
I had
home
to do
lives being, maybe there's other people working from home, maybe they're babysitting some siblings, maybe other things
hmm.
going on, and it was a massive struggle. And
Man, let me tell you, it's hard when you're 14 to 18. It's even harder when you're dealing with a 5-year-old. Like,
yeah,
having to keep
yeah,
my
my
son
son was
active.
in first grade for it.
Yeah. My kid missed the entire like half of kindergarten, all of first grade, and now he's in second grade in school and he's like thriving because he's like, "Look, I've got friends." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yes, thank God." Um, but did you I mean, like, your game club has a community. How do you handle that when it's vanished over like, 2 years?
Yeah, the game club was a huge mental health asset during the pandemic. It was incredible. We pivoted to it pretty seamlessly. I just started up the a Google Classroom for it, and
Oh, clever.
scheduled when it was going to be, a couple days a week, and went right into that. And um, the the D&D students really shined there. They kept
Hmm.
going on their adventures.
Well,
I
yeah,
made a
like playing
character
D
and
and D
played
over
right along
Zoom.
with them. I mean, there were two kids who made a class project where they wrote a campaign for the first time and
Hmm.
DM'd it for 6, I think, other game club members, and they interspersed it with physical activities. So we would like do stretching or like mountain climbers or things that were prompted in the adventure, and they made this entire community
That's so
service project
cool.
thing about it. It was incredible to watch.
I love this. Oh
Incredible to
my god, that
participate in.
sounds
Yeah.
awesome. Like,
And it was
mind
just
you,
being inventive, creative, finding solutions for this oppressive situation that we were all in, and just making this beautiful mental health outlet for everyone.
yeah, because if there's one thing gamers are known for, it's exercise. That sounds fantastic, man. Wow. Um, yeah, and I'm like, once Spell Table came along, playing Magic over like Zoom and stuff became much easier. D&D obviously is totally fine over Zoom
Yeah.
or like video cameras and stuff because it's theater of the mind. Like if
Hmm.
I'm telling you a story, it's easy for you to roll and just like we can roll with it easy. It's like, I mean, God knows I've played D&D over friggin' mail before. Where you have to
Right.
write out what you're doing and then mail it to the guy. It's
Wow.
cool. It's real cool, but this is the olden analog days. Um, so it seems like you've built this group here. You've built this really kind of like interesting supportive club. What do the kids think? Like, what are like? Have there? Have you seen any like real growth or like development in these kids?
Oh yeah, I see students come in as freshmen and mature, and their interests evolve, and they become more sophisticated about their approach to the game. And I put a lot of intentionality into the formative experience. And I'm trying to shape the community for the better. There's
Mm.
obviously a lot of toxicity in the community, and I try to
You don't.
create people that are going to go out and be gamers and value things like diversity, value things like inclusion, value honesty, helping each other out. I have more experienced players teach and mentor new players, and I make very clear those are my expectations, and any of those kinds of toxic behaviors I get right in the middle of, and make them teachable moments, and to make the club a more welcoming, happy place for everyone. And
That's so
that's just what
important.
I want to see out there in the community, and I feel like in my own small way that every graduating class that goes on to be gamers, they're going to bring those values with them if I've done what I've set out to do.
That is the sort of thing that is so deeply important. Is that setting an example for kids or for younger people to be able to have like if you set a good example for them, then they will use your example as their motivating factor as they go forward. If they only see people being jerkwads to each other, then that's the behavior they're going to take with them, right? Like this is simple child rearing right here. But so often we see adults in our era now just not doing that, right? Like not focusing on the kids, not caring enough because there's so much other crap we have to deal with. And so like I don't know. I feel like I'm just like spending my time like puffing you up here because like this is such an important thing to me. Like just having good examples for children is and I mean I realize high schoolers are not children, but I am 40 something. They're children.
Yeah, they are and they aren't, and they bring a lot of immaturity, and like
But
you
also
said, the
malleability.
yeah, the kind of nerd gamer social skills and attitudes. There's a lot of those spiky competitive kind of people, and that just I want to pub stomp you, and haha, and you know taking a experience like that and making it a positive for both players. And okay, I'm not just gonna scrape you and laugh at you. I'm gonna help you be better at this game, and impart to you my skills, my lessons. I mean, all of us learned magic essentially from other humans, right? I mean,
Mhm.
like, yeah, you can read the rules And like I bought a fifth edition starter deck and read the little card size rule book, and that's how I learned some of the
It
bare
you
bones of the
know,
rules. But like people mentored me, people helped me in
it's
this
sometimes I sit
ludicrously
there
complex game,
yeah.
and having those level up moments happen from one person to the next in a positive way, where they're fostering each other, and not haha I beat you, but hey, check this out, here's something you can learn,
So, I mean,
and
seriously, dude, sometimes I go back and look at, like, those older cards and older rules and stuff, I'm like, "How the hell did we manage to learn this game?" Like, this is nutso. How like, I don't understand how anybody was able to do this. It
I
was
read a paragraph about banding and I understood how
we made it work, man. Like, Benelish Hero was in everybody's deck. It's probably because the chick was hot more than anything, but, like, we still played it and we
Yellow and
learned it.
Sky Captain.
Ye What the hell is Tundra Wolves? I think was the one
Yeah.
that had, like God, dude, banding, but
Where's my banding commander?
yeah, so, like, I'm sure there you know, no, no.
Not serious.
I'm just going to put my foot down and say no.
But if they printed
Uh,
one, I would make it.
but, that brings up a good point, though, because 'cause I'm sure you have kids come in who are just like, "Yo, I know, gaming," as in, like, Madden or whatever, and they sit there and see people playing D&D or Magic, and they're like, "What is going on?" How do you introduce Magic to these people in a way that doesn't immediately, like, turn them off? Like, what have you done? What sorts of tools do you have to be able to teach a new person to play?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time at the start of the year teaching Magic myself. It is a skill that you can go about in a way that's going to make the learner want to know more and be curious about this game, or turn them off. And you have to kind of pay attention to things about it. I've used welcome decks to give students, and I'm always giving cards away. Give them
Sure.
their first deck, whatever that is. Lots of companies make lots of cool stuff. Card Kingdom makes these like cool pre-made decks, things like that. You can make them yourself if you want. But I always start with the hook into it is the color pie, right?
Mm,
It's and I explain the color. Okay, green, it's all about nature and beastie creatures and healing, and okay, and then you got white. It's about civilization and soldiery and protection and da-da. And let them pick out their first color. Give them a
mm,
monocolor deck of that. And the thing that's beautiful about Magic is all of this choice in what you put into your deck, the choices you've made of the cards you've picked out, the basic lands you find beautiful, and that's what makes it such a resilient, huge game. The choices have meaning, and I make that your first choice. It's not like, oh, which color of meeple do you want to be? By the way, it doesn't matter at all. It's like, oh, I picked red because yes, fire and emotion and impulsiveness. That's me. Let's do it. And then I just teach them bare bones the rules.
mm.
Never over explain. Just here's how you
God,
cast spells. Here's how combat works. There's other things that like make the creatures bigger,
if it's on
smaller. They might
the
kill
card will
them.
explain what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, but like we'll address that when it comes up. You know, and then let him go.
If there's one
And
thing that I've learned, it's that when a nerd is trying to teach somebody to play their game, their first inclination is to over explain the hell out of
yeah,
like the deep
yeah,
dusty corners of the rules. And I'm like, no, 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 no.
yeah.
They don't
Information
need to know the
overloaded.
interactions between humility and Oketra or whatever.
Yeah,
They need to know, how do I attack? Or
yeah,
how much life do I have? When
yeah,
do I draw a card? That's what they need to know, right?
yeah. And as soon as possible, have them making choices.
Mm,
Okay, I know how to cast spells. I know how combat works. So what are the consequences of my choices? And then I just explain what I'm doing. Okay, I'm gonna tap one green and play this Llanowar Elves. Next turn. Okay, I could attack you with it, but it'll die, so I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna use its
mm.
ability here to cast a bigger spell because it's got this thing. Then add green. That's what that means. And I just explain what I'm doing, and then you know, uh, let them take their
Mhm,
own turn and let them think about stuff and take their
and
time, and then
stop them from making the
ask them
mistake
if they
we
have
all did.
questions.
Mhm.
And point out,
Yeah.
don't, right? There's that impulse. Oh, the correct play is, so let me explain it to you and why.
Mhm, mhm.
Let them, okay, I'll attack with these. And I'll say, yeah, I can block your 3/3 with this 5/5. It'll die and I won't lose anything. Just so you know, if you want to think that through again, totally fine. And, and that's getting to know the rules. But
Mhm.
really, what is compelling about this game is different for every person. And
Yes.
so I hand them a deck and I first just say, okay, thumb through it, just take a look. And, and if they talk about the art, start talking about art. Start talking about your favorite artist. Start,
Mhm.
those kind of things. You know, mention there's competitive play if they're, like a super spike. When I ask them, okay, so I just described the 5 colors. Which one speaks to you? And if their response is what's the best color, then you might have a spike on your hands.
It's like, which
Like
one lets you
mention,
win?
oh, there's people that cosplay this, and if that pricks their interest, then start talking about that. You know,
Mhm.
and just there's so many facets to the game. You can mention its collectability. Cards worth money, something, and you like people make a living buying and selling the cards. And if you're like, whoa, tell me more about that, then just draw them in with whatever they think is cool and interesting, because so many people play it for so many different reasons,
Fact.
and that's how you get people interested in the game. And maybe they decide it's not really for them, but you've given them a deck and you've given them some stuff. I mean, I just give away all the things donated to my club and just give them to kids who
Do
are
you
interested
do
in
you
it.
make decks for them, or do
Maybe
you
they come
use,
back
like,
later.
pre-cons?
It's mostly pre-con stuff. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, welcome decks or playing with packs that we have, doing a draft, doing a sealed type thing. Um, yeah. So if it's their first
Makes sense.
experience, you need to give them a deck to play with
Yeah.
out the gate. That's a big hurdle learning wise, is
Mhm.
building your own deck, right?
I
So
think
for
people
months, kids
totally.
are working with something pre-built.
Yeah, I think a lot of veteran players don't realize how daunting the deck building phase is. Like, it
Oh
is
yeah,
real hard to just sit there and be like, "So you want me to make 60 cards out of this?" And, like,
so many
half of them
things I have to
have to
play.
be not
Yeah,
cards, and I don't understand. What do you want me to
yeah,
do? Like, my
right.
wife, she didn't she, like, only started playing when we had, like, Duels of the Planeswalkers on the Xbox or whatever, because she's like, "The deck building is done for me. I don't need to worry about that. I can just play the game." And I'm like,
Yeah, and
"That's
some
a
people that's
fair
not the
point."
thing that's compelling to them at all. You
Like
know?
me, I don't want a
Yeah,
deck build, I don't care about it, I just wanna play. Um, which is a weird thing for a person in my position to say, but I'm also one of the biggest proponents of precons there is, so, like, I think giving somebody a precon and then allowing them to learn how to mold it to their personality and shape it, and, like, Ship of Theseus is my favorite example, right? Like, you take
yeah,
one card out, you put another card in, like, 5 years from now, that's not the precon, but it's something that you have organically built,
yeah,
one card at a time off of a foundation I gave you, instead of trying to throw you into the deep end and say, like, "Okay, make a commander deck. Good luck."
yeah.
You know? Especially since commander, like, is there a lot of commander played? What kind of Magic do they play there?
So we'll have pure straight up kitchen table that is totally naive to the greater Magic discourse universe, and it's like, here's my all of my red cards in my mountains,
Mm,
and uh, the so it's pure kitchen table kind of things, or if they're playing a format, it's usually Commander, uh,
mm,
90+% of the time, and they'll format is just kind of irrelevant. They'll just play whatever with each other. They'll just play whatever size of group. You know, I'll do a draft
hell
and I'll
yeah.
try to. Okay, so we're gonna pair off and you build your 40 card deck and then we match up and then you can keep score like this and I'll start like helping out some kids with some rules and I'll turn around and there's like a 5-player game where they're all playing their draft deck against each other.
I mean, the best
And
thing about high school is playing, like, 11-player multiplayer games, you
yeah,
Just like, why not? We all wanna play
it's
together, here we go.
yeah, it's so fun because like a lot of Twitter is hyper obsessed about uh rule zero and expectations and this should be banned or that should be banned and what's the meta like and they just don't care. Just,
No, they don't. They just want to play, man.
oh, I have my draft deck. You have a commander deck. Cool, let's play. Like and they're just totally happy to just play Magic. It's the purest, just joy of Magic. I mean,
It's
like
just like
every week I get to see a kid like crack their first Planeswalker and just
that's sweet.
lose their mind, and I just love being immersed in that energy. And
That's why I hate War of the Spark. War of the Spark took that joy away of like like cracking a planeswalker used to mean something, and now it's like, oh look, it's another
yeah,
38 Teos, great. Um, but like, I think though, because one of the things we find out, like especially here on the internet and on Twitter when we're talking with other Magic fans and stuff, is that there's a lot of theory crafting. There's a lot of like thinking about Magic and talking about Magic and not a lot of playing Magic. But when you're like younger or when you're new to the game and stuff, you don't want to sit there and talk Magic. You just want to jam games and you want to sit and play with whoever's around with
yeah,
whatever deck you've got. It doesn't matter. Just get to the play.
yeah.
And like you'll
Just
deal
sitting
with
around
the
making friends, having fun.
mundane part later.
Yeah,
The cure to talking about Magic is actually playing Magic.
yeah, right. And who wins, who loses is whatever. It's irrelevant, right? We do a draft and they're playing 5-player. It's like they clearly don't care about keeping score. It's just hanging out, making friends, enjoying all the joys of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I'll mention is I get a lot of bulk cards donated to the club from locals and things, which is great. And the going through bulk aspect of the game and having kids just discover the game through that way is some kids' favorite thing to do. I mean, when I was a teenager, just hours I spent in my room going through my cards, sorting them, making decks that I never played. That was a big thing I was
Mm-hmm.
into. And yeah, I mean, kids flipping through and they're like, oh, look at this. It's like a tree person. I'm like, oh, yeah, pretty cool. Are there more of these? Yeah.
Dude,
Really?
I remember I was talking to Ben Wheeler, and he used to work in a game store, and we were talking about this phenomenon where every now and then you would get some player come in and they'd be like, I want to see all the cats you have. I'm
Yeah.
building a cat deck. Show me all the cat cards. And it's like, okay, let's
Yeah.
show you all the cat cards. Let's go. Like because one thing I think we forget, like the joy. I mean, one of the things that happens when you're a jaded old, like longtime player, deeply immersed, like content creator level, or not even content creator, when you're just like a deeply engaged and invested player who's like imbibing this 24 hours a day, you forget that there really is just a glee to getting a pack of or like a handful of cards you've never seen before, and then just sitting down and looking at them and
Yeah.
reading them and thinking like, what the hell
Yeah.
does an amulet of Krug do? Or who is Urza? Or like, what do you
Yeah.
mean that I can have an island fish Disconius? That's amazing. Is it an island and a fish? You
Yeah.
know, I think, and especially like these days, they've made the card so evocative and so clever that like you're like, there's a frog samurai. That's so
Yeah.
rad. And I think
Yeah.
there's deep
I
value to that, and especially when you're younger.
During the pandemic, once I was able to give away stuff, like kids could come to the school to pick up things. That was not the case at first. It was like intense. You can't even come to school for whatever. So as soon as we got the green light on, oh, kids can come get things, I did curbside pickup of game club stuff. And so any of the D&D books people wanted, minis, board games to check out, checked out tons of those. And kids were at home with their siblings, whatever friend groups that their families were comfortable, exchanging with. But a lot of kids, I just did a Google form, just sign up for whatever you want. Here's what we got, take it, and here's the days you can get it. So I like tallied all these up and I gave tons of magic cards away. So, like, here, kid, here's a 5-row. It's yours.
Oh
There's
man,
bulk and they're just,
here's like
just
1,000
the
comments. Good
hours
luck.
of joy that they got from just going through a 5-row of bulk cards. There would be kids
Dude,
that, we do a Google Meet and we're playing like Among Us or Code Names or some of
Ha!
these like
Oh, I
online
love
games and stuff,
coders.
and there'd be kids that would sit there picking through the 5 row, uh, just listening and just laughing at jokes whatever every once in a while, but just like thumbing through cards while just being a
Man,
part of the game club in that way,
just in
and
the
and
atmosphere of it.
yeah, I mean a lot of the joys of Magic are solo, right?
Mhm.
Just picking out design and stuff, collectability, all that kind of thing.
Yes. I think one of the things that, and I've said this a lot today, but a thing, I mean, I focus a lot on newer players, on casual players of all stripes, and because I care about the onboarding experience a lot. I care about the experience of that person who's playing the game for the first time. And Magic is an absurdly expensive game. It's an absurdly hard to get into game. It's a
Yeah,
complicated game. Getting the cards is hard to do. So when you're just handed, like I know, like I've got friends and stuff who will periodically just go out like to the game store and just be like, these two kids obviously they're trying to scrounge up their allowance money for a pack, so I'm just going to buy them a box because like you see these kids and their eyes just pop and
yeah,
they're like, this is more cards than they've ever had in their life, and this person is not taking it back, and they're just like, yeah, you guys just got to split the packs and then good luck. And it's just like, and even getting just a handful of bulk commons, like even I remember there
yep.
was a time when like we would take all of our draft chaff from the store and then go to like the local school clubs and stuff and just be like, here you go, here's a bunch of cards,
That's
and
what
the
it's all
kids would
about.
be just overjoyed
Yeah,
because it's like, yeah, for us it's like whatever, man, the thing's like a quarter and it doesn't make a difference after you draft it, it's garbage. But to them that's like the greatest frost links they've ever seen in their life, and they're going to build a
yep,
whole deck, and that's going to be a memory. In 25 years from now it's going to be like, man, I got a frost links and it was amazing and changed my life. And I think there's value to that. I think there's a deep and enduring value to seeing these people, like, and especially like trying not to make them jaded. Like let them have that fun experience. Let them
yeah,
look at the card that you think is trash. Who cares? Let them be stoked about it, right?
yep,
I don't know.
yeah, and you know, lowering the barriers to getting into the game is what I'm all about. I'm just the opposite of what a gatekeeper is. Is my what I'm trying to do.
Mhm. A
And
gate
so the
opener.
financial barrier is one of the barriers to the game. So everything's free, and some things are get good grades, and you can have the like swaggy swag that you don't need to like play Magic, but like here's a cool play mat and here's cool sleeves and here's like fancy dice. But yeah, here's a spin down. Here's everything you need to play. And some people will give us pre-con commander decks, and I'm always on the lookout for the student that's really into the game, and seems like they the financial barrier is a barrier for them, and so I'll hook them up with the pre-con, and they can join in the commander, and you know uh
Yeah.
the
I mean, you know what I'm saying. You like we're getting redundant here, but like there's still just like it matters to me that kids can be that people can come into the game and be able to get enfranchisement, and be able to feel like they belong, be able to feel like they can hang with us. And that's why I'm so glad that like the pre-cons have become more affordable. Commander
yeah,
decks are now being sold for like 20 bucks or whatever. And that's still expensive, but it's still like not, you're still getting 100 cards out of it. There's a lot of value to be had there, and they're playable, which is I think the best thing WotC has done is made these things actually just, you can take it out of the box and it'll actually work as a deck, unlike say like Kalia or whatever, which is half a deck and half a bunch of random cards that just have to be there. Um, and I don't know, it just, I don't know. Where are you getting all these playmats and stuff from? I know like periodically there's like donation drives, and I know like folks will just send you gigantic pallets worth of cards.
yeah, the Twitter community has been amazing, and people will just slide into my DMs and say, hey, can I give you some stuff, and or hey, I think this is cool what you're doing. Occasionally other people will champion something for me. um, a bunch of Twitter folks organized like, hey, let's send a bunch of Black is Magic secret layers to Mike's Game Club kids, and I was just like, "That'd be amazing. Those are super expensive, you know."
Mm.
And the people were like, "No, I'm buying one for you. I'm buying two for you. I'm buying," and they all just showed up, and I hooked up black kids with Black is Magic, and they absolutely loved it. I mean, it was what it was intended to be. Just the representation that was so profoundly meaningful to these students to see themselves as the coolest central characters in the game. And Wizards have been better and better at that all the time, and it's so cool. I mean, I have this that I got from my LGS, a 5 foot tall Teferi, like
Mm.
um, you poster with 3D pop outy things on it, and so you come into my classroom and you see this awesome looking Teferi, and students are like, "Whoa, who's that?" And oh yeah, let me tell you about Teferi, and um, that
I mean, that's why I thought Kaladesh was so, even with the problems I had with it, why it was so important to me, because I've been a fantasy fan since I was 8 years old, right? And I have never in my entire life seen myself represented in any of my hobbies. And so to see a whole setting based around people that, looked vaguely like me was really, really important. And if it's important for me as a mature adult who is like well and confident and set up in my ways, think about what it would be like for like your a random 15-year-old anywhere in the world to be able to sit there and crack this thing open and see like people that look like them. And that is so vital to both our own self-esteem, our own self-worth, but also the growth of the game. If you want people to play, you've got to get them excited and hooked in, and having characters that look like them, having your Huatlis, having your Saheelis and your, what have you is just so meaningful to, I mean, if it doesn't matter to you, that's fine. You don't need it. That just play the card. But if it does matter to you, then that's like a level of extra like happiness, and just it's free. It's a value add, right? Like it doesn't take away from anybody, but it makes the people who would the people who are affected by it get that much more happy, right?
yeah,
It's all upside, I think.
yeah, and it's the being the opposite of a gatekeeper, welcoming more people in. This is a game
You say that
for
though, the word
everyone.
I think of is in the ancient Jain tradition. The Jains are a religion from India from like, around the time of the Buddha. They call their leader the Tirthankars. Tirthankar means ford maker. And by that it means the person who is leading you to the shallow part of the river in order for you to be able to cross. So like when you're like the opposite of a gatekeeper, like a gatekeeper, I imagine, big troll, good dude standing in front
Yeah,
and being like, thou shalt not pass, versus the hey, here's the part of the river we can actually walk across, like the
yeah,
bridge maker or something like that. That's the vibe you want to be. You want to be welcoming them, but not just welcoming them because they don't know what to do on the other side once they get here. They need somebody to show them what to do and how to make the best of this opportunity that's been given. Like it's not enough to just open the gate. You got to take them through. And that's,
hmm
I think, the most valuable like resource we can have, which is why I'm really grateful to you for all the work you're doing for your community. And I hope that like more people who are in the position of being able to do this can. Like there's so many communities in the world that could benefit from having like this kind of, I mean, it's hard enough being a teacher. And then having a teacher and then like because teachers want to engage, teachers want to be the people to help these children open up their minds, learn. I mean, sometimes they're jaded, sometimes we have bad teachers. I know, I understand. But I come from a like family of teachers and a lineage of teachers, and my wife's family is all teacher and stuff. So I've got a lot of public school like love in my heart.
cool.
So the right teachers who aren't just the people who are sitting there showing you how to do your titrations, they're the ones who are showing you how to be a good person and how to also be a happy person. Because
Yeah,
you can't be a good person if you're not a happy person. And self-care has, I mean, what is it? Doctor heal thyself, right? Like,
Yeah.
go and learn how to play games, express yourself. Once you can express yourself confidently in a game, you learn that you can do the same out of the game. And that's like the benefit of gaming. Except when we're all just sitting here and like, teabagging each other in our Call of Duties. Um, look, I'm not saying that there's not a place to go and take your buddies in high school and rub their face in the mud after you just fireballed them for 38. But it's also about learning to be confident in yourself enough to want to do that, right? Like, and I think you're doing a service to your community, and it's commendable.
Thank you.
Um, so man, I've been just like talking the whole time. What challenges have you seen coming from this? Like, have you found any like resistance or like angry parents or anything like that?
Um, Not a lot from parents. Like things
What
of
do you mean my kid is there after school all the time? Like, he should
yeah,
be doing his homework.
yeah. They're very supportive. They think it's a great you know outlet for their kid, a social outlet. They know it's a safe place for their kid to be, and their kid is obviously much happier from doing it. And uh, it's like one of the things about the club is it brings like an LGS to them.
Mm,
Another barrier it's lowering is the geographic barrier.
mm,
You might go to your LGS and wonder, why is my LGS more diverse? Well, it, it how easy is it to get there for communities that might not look like yours? And here it's like the LGS experience right after school, right here, everything's free, and it's another facet of um, lowering the barrier to playing the game.
mm.
And
That's a good point. Like, you don't often think about how hard it is to get to a game store because we
yeah,
have crappy public transportation and game stores are not always in good locations because those things are expensive and land is expensive. Um,
right. Is it on
yeah,
a
that's
bus
a
route?
very good point. Especially like, how are kids going to get introduced to things like Catan or like, you know, I don't know, the random Euro game of the month, right? Like, these
Yeah.
aren't things that just show up at the Target or whatever. Your mom's not going to come home one day. It's like, here, I got the big box of Carcassonne. Yay. You know, like, these tickets aren't going to ride themselves is all I'm saying. Um, it's having the ability to be introduced because it's weird. I'm thinking right now, like, because I'm an egotist and everything is about me. I'm remembering back when I was in middle school and my sixth grade or my seventh grade, like pre-algebra or algebra teacher or whatever it was, handed me a bunch of floppy disks that had a bootleg copy of King's Quest 4 on it. And he was like, "Hey man, I think you're really gonna like this." And I took it home and I'm like, "This is the greatest thing ever."
Yes,
And like, when I was
I
in
love
high
being that
school,
teacher for
oh,
for
yeah, it's the best, dude. Like, especially it feels so illicit because like, an adult is giving you
yeah.
a thing, and it's so cool, but, I mean, it's like, CGA illicit, so it's not exactly, but, I mean, when I was in, like, high school, our CAD teacher and, like, the woodshop guys who were always, random nerds in those schools, they were the one who would run, like, the gaming club afterwards, and we would be able to go to their room and play Magic or, play
Awesome.
Rifts or D&D or whatever in a proto version of what you're doing because it was much less a thing, but still just being able to sit there and be like, "Yo, Mr. Brown's got a deck too, and he just thumped us. Maybe we need to go and figure out what we did wrong." And it's rad. Um, like, I remember the first time I got the drama teacher to, sponsor my anime club, which in 1997 or 6 was, like, one of the first anime clubs
Yeah,
anywhere,
my
and
school has
we
a
were getting,
huge
like, yeah.
anime club, manga club.
Yeah, and
Different thing than
now it
me,
is, but
right?
but back then we were getting like bootlegs that someone's uncle from Taiwan was sending
Yeah,
us, right? Like on VHS.
awesome.
But just having like a teacher be supportive means a lot, and I think that's really, really commendable. Um,
Yeah, I mean, in high school, I felt conspicuously uncool playing games in school, and uh, was actively discouraged from doing it by all of my adults at school.
yeah, yeah. My parents are like, "This is not gonna make you any money. You should maybe
Yeah,
focus on your schooling and doing your actual
I do
homework."
get that. Yeah, the kids that are getting bad grades, you know,
Yeah.
uh, and I respect that.
Do you ever, do you find yourself ever, like, helping kids out, or, like, do kids ever come up to you and be like, "Yo, can you help me with my homework?"
Oh, for sure. I'm always there for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's also good when the other thing, I guess, is the upside is they start to feel more comfortable around you and teachers in general, which just makes their relationship with school better, right? And that's
Yeah,
all upside for everybody involved.
yeah. It's great seeing freshmen come in that are, new to a big high school, and
Oh god.
they're so anxious about everything, and they, come into this room and they see 30 other nerds, and they're like, "Oh, yes."
That's
And you get the
so
the
sweet.
relief and they'll be timid at first, and then, they'll just find their people and get off running, and,
Did your
make
kids like
lifelong friends.
Kamigawa?
What's that?
Did your kids like Kamigawa?
Oh yeah, yeah. Wizards just sent some to us, and we did a whole draft of it and everything. They absolutely loved it.
That's
Yeah,
sweet.
especially our artists. A lot of them are into emulating manga and that kind of style,
Yeah, they are.
and found the art really beautiful. Um, we have amazing artists there too. They're some of the D&D clubs. Their main interest in D&D is illustrating everything they can.
Mhm.
Make binders of characters and items and maps, and that's their huge artistic outlet. So
I
it's
love
so
to
cool
hear it.
seeing that grow over the years. I've had kids doing that for 4 years, and you know,
Yeah, I
oh
mean,
yeah, I
how long
made this. This is my first character I made at your club, and here's my most recent one. I'm just like, oh my
oh, it's so good. How long has your club been going?
god. Next year will be the 10th year.
Oh, damn. That's awesome, man. Well
Yeah,
done.
yeah, and it all started with my own board game collection, and
Yeah, I guess that's the part I
Fallen
should have
Empires
asked,
Bulk,
like,
and
an hour ago. Like, gosh, how did you start this club?
yeah. Uh, yeah, it was me and a colleague who has since left, who is another gamer, and we wanted to be very intentional about bringing the multifaceted benefits of gaming to underrepresented demographics in the wider gaming community, and it's really snowballed, and the I started posting on Twitter some of the stuff I was doing, and people would just reach out and say, "This is so cool! Oh my gosh, I would have died to have this in high school," and offer to send things, and just rejoice in seeing young people having the opportunity to have so much fun doing that. I mean, it was such an important part of my adolescence, and seeing people
Mm,
want to give back to that is just beautiful.
that's fantastic. What's your favorite game?
Uh,
Non-Magic game.
Non-magic game?
Yeah.
Yeah, D&D I play a lot too, and I'm a huge fan of it. Um, and Euro games, I'm down for pretty much any of those. Yeah,
Mm. 'Cause I'm like, Splendor is a good game if you haven't played it.
I have not played that.
Oh, dude, Splendor is awesome. It's a Euro game about resources, and it's all about moving chits around and getting other chits and buying
Yeah.
things, right? Like, I mean, the problem with Euro games is that it's like, so what do you do in this game? Oh, well, you
Worker
try
placement.
to get victory points by getting piles of crap in front of you,
Yeah.
and it's like that's all of them. Yeah, but Splendor is
Yeah.
really, really good. And Azul, which is another like of my current favorite games.
Okay.
Oh, have you played if have you ever played Azul?
No.
Oh my god, it's one of the best games that's come out in the past 5 years. It's basically a tile laying game. You pick up these tiles. It's based off of uh building like Moroccan tile work. So it's like
Ah,
this pattern recognition game. Um it takes like 5 minutes to learn, but it's a very deep game because you can
cool.
start cutting
Yeah.
people off and getting
Love those elegant ones
dude,
like that.
if you
Yeah.
haven't played it, it's fantastic. Highly, highly
Yeah.
recommend. And
Yeah.
also Morels, if you haven't seen that one. It's a
Like
two-player game, but
fungus.
actually never mind, 'cause I think that one's out of print. But it's a two-player game about mushroom harvesting. It's delightful. Um, I
That's
don't
great.
know. I love board games. What do you
Biologist in
want?
me absolutely loves that.
Yes. Um,
Alhambra is one I've
oh,
been playing a lot
Alhambra's
with
great.
my wife and my friends. Yeah.
Have you played Sagrada?
No.
It's a dice pool rolling game based. Okay, one of the things is I really like tile work,
Wait,
and I
is that
like
the one where it's like themed of like cathedral stained
yes,
glass? Yeah,
yes,
yeah, I played that just a month ago. Yeah, for
the
the
game
first time.
is
That was
rad.
super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I could probably go on for like a year and a half about like the various things I want to do,
Yeah.
but this has been a wonderful talk, and thank you so much for joining me today. I think what you're doing is really important, and I hope it inspires other people to do the same.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Um, so if people wanted to reach out to you or find you, where could they do that?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Mike Wildspeaker, like the Planeswalker. All one word, Mike Wildspeaker.
Sweet. Cool. And I wish the best to your students, and I hope this year goes better than the last two have. Um,
Thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
it's all you know. Uh, it's only going to get better. I keep the optimistic, positive mindset.
Yeah. Well, and as always, my friends, if you want to find me, you can find me at Gear Pretty Gears. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff Inc. And remember, it is not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.